Well, welcome back to the fourth episode of This Week Online. My name is Prad, and with me always is... right. Yeah, sorry guys, Jacob's out for this one, but you've still got me, so it'll be a shorter episode, and I'll be asking myself the questions, so it'll be a bit of a weirder one, but hopefully you guys can bear with it. So, Prad, what have you been following this week? Well, let me tell you, my friend, I started watching an anime that's ongoing right now. It's called Ahira no Sora. It's a basketball anime, which, no surprise, I'm going to be the one watching it. It doesn't lend itself to the super players that exist in something like Kuroko's basketball, which I do really like, but prefer this for that reason. And although it does include quite a few of the usual tropes in an anime, like a crazy eater and one who's got, and for a basketball or sports anime, one who's got a difficulty that everyone thinks makes him useless on the court, but it turns out he's indispensable. And like, yeah, you know, that's not the best way to advertise for an anime. It's hilarious. It's a great sports anime, and I definitely recommend it. So if you have a chance, check it out. If you're not into anime, then oh well. Definitely feels a little lonely to not have Jacob here to ask what he's been listening to this week, but that's all right. We'll move on. First thing on the list this week is a topic that I'm kind of interested in. It nicely tails off what I just talked about. It's sports, but in the online realm, it's Madden 21. Just released earlier this week and received the lowest user rating on Metacritic in history. Honestly, that's an achievement. Although it's an achievement on the level of, you know, YouTube Rewind being the worst, like the most disliked video on YouTube, it's an achievement nonetheless. Yeah, so they received a rating of 0.3 out of 10, a user rating. And from looking at the reviews and comments, it looks like a lot of people are really upset by the game, literally being one of those, you know, hey, can I copy your homework? Sure, just change it a little so that it's not obvious, except they don't change it, and the homework is their own game. IGN gave the game a 6 out of 10, GameSpot gave it 6 out of 10, and TechRadar gave it 3.5 out of 5. For a AAA game, that's really not good. I mean, we've seen games that users don't like before, right? Like, but you know, games that critics appreciate. Most recent example I would say is Last of Us 2. I won't go into it too much, but it took some massive balls to make some of the decisions they did in that game. And you know, the critics were raving about the game. Several of these, you know, gamer magazines and all of that gave it 10 out of 10. The average user rating was 6 out of 10. And I mean, at the very least, you know that the story is creating conversation, because with about 35,000 positive reviews and 34,000 negative reviews, you know a game is at least creating conversation. Like, not everyone is happy by some of the decisions that they made in the game, but some people are, and so there's a lot of back and forth. So it's a controversial one, but at least there are people who think it's positive. But Madden isn't. I look, I've never played Madden. I prefer isn't really the right word. I've played NBA 2K a lot. But Madden introduced a face of the franchise part to the game. It was essentially what NBA 2K has as My Career. You get to create your own character, play your own story, and I don't know if this has been in previous games, and I don't know how popular it is in Madden. But it's not a good story either. The story mode is, you know, filled with glitches and bugs, and it doesn't really adapt to your performances, how well you're doing. It's just a set story, and no matter how well you do, it just seeks to frustrate you constantly. And on the other hand, the team and franchise side of the game, you know, the one where you get to play as a team, control the entire team, and, you know, strategize and all of that, it's entirely the same as previous years. Apparently there's a few features that have been updated, but that really just accounts to a game being a patch. Like, at that point, you may as well just release. I mean, obviously, as a major company, you want to release another game so that you get as much money as you can. But at that, like, you're barely changing anything. Maybe it's a minor, you know, graphics update. There's minor gameplay changes. Like, apparently the defense is a bit more smooth, but you may as well just release a patch at that point. Like, I've seen games like Warframe, which is free entirely, or I don't know, freaking League of Legends even. right? Like they introduce massive gameplay changes every year and throughout the year, and those are just patches. You only have to get the game once, and getting the game is free. Even if you look at something like um I don't know. Uh, I can list a couple of games, but I can list Monster Hunter, paid game, not a no competitive scene. I'll admit that, but it's a fairly large game, but they only release one every few years, and that game at least receives a couple of updates, which means that you're getting a game and then you're getting a lot with the game. But comparing that to Madden or even NBA 2K, which I could probably talk more about, um, they've barely changed anything. I mean, I'm going to get onto a bit, go into a bit of go into a bit of a tangent here because I'm very frustrated by how NBA 2K runs its operation. Um, but the problem with these sports games is that the gameplay changes are so fine. Like they'll say, "Oh, there was a massive bug in the last game," or "There was a massive gameplay, I don't know, change that nobody liked. So in the next year's game, we don't have that anymore." Why do that when you can just say, okay, no one likes this feature, we're going to remove it or substitute it with something else? And then you have a game that people are like, oh, hey, they changed it. This game is now good. I'm going to play more of it. And the problem with NBA 2K, and perhaps that'll expand to Madden as they expand their game as well, is that they release a game that requires so much grinding in order to get. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and break down the entirety of how you get a good team and you get a good my player and all of that in NBA 2K. So you start the game. You can start by creating a my player. You play my career and you create your own character. There's a decent story. I will say I honestly enjoy the kind of story they tried to put into the game. In previous years, they tried to do a Spike Lee thing, which no one liked. But this, like I played it a while back. My career is fun. It's fun at the end of the day because you get to create the character that you want to create, the player that you want to create, which is pretty good. But the problem is that in order to hype the game up, and a lot of games do this, I know, they give the game, they give the game to some certain YouTubers like Chris Smooth or someone to play the game and release on YouTube early so that people are like super hyped about the game. But then what ends up happening is that they give these YouTubers the game, but they give them a whole lot of VC, in-game credits. And with these in-game credits, you can then upgrade your character to a, insane level. And then by the start of the game, your character is already what other people take another, half a season to get to. And so if you want to have a good experience in my career, you either have to buy one of the legendary editions or whatever they call it. Sorry, I don't remember, the legend edition or something like that, to get, a massive amount of credits when you start, and then you can upgrade your character, and then you can play well in the game, and then it snowballs from there. Like if you do well to start, you do well going forwards. If you don't do well to start, then you won't do well going forwards. And most people are going to start doing very, very poorly because that's just like not. I don't think the majority of people are getting the Legend Edition. It's more expensive, and you just get more VC. But the problem there is that the VC that you get by playing this then translates over to other parts of the game. There's a my team, well, there's teams and all of that where you get to put together your own team of legends. But in order to get those players, you then have to do a whole whatchamacallit. It's the system where you get packs, and then you open the packs, and you may get something good, you may get something bad. There's a higher chance of getting something bad. But for the YouTubers that get a lot of the credits and all of that stuff, they get to open a whole lot of packs. They get the good players really quickly. They then dominate the scene, and then it's hard for anyone else to come up. And so anyone else watching these YouTubers play the game initially will see, wow, it's so much fun. But they don't really show the truth of the game, that it's super grindy unless you pay to win. Because you can buy credits and then you can upgrade your characters a lot, but you then have to pay a lot of money to get to upgrade your character, or you just see before the game is released, wow, it's so much fun, I'm gonna get the game, and then you get the game, and it's not that. You start by missing loads of shots which no one sees. You start by turning the ball over in every single possession, which no one sees because again, the hype up trailers and all the hype up gameplay, they get to spend the money, they get to spend the credits on their characters, which makes them super powerful, which means that people who get the game are almost tricked to some extent into thinking that it's a lot easier than it seems. And that might just be a personal thing, which maybe it's not as bad as it sounds. I don't think I'm getting it through very well. But on the other side of it is, um, they try to develop a competitive scene in this, and I'm not sure how deep the competitive scene for Madden is. Maybe it's popular, maybe it's not. I've not heard much about it, but I do know that there is a competitive scene for NBA 2K, and um, it's not good. The problem is that again, they're releasing a game that has barely any changes every single year. The most that's changed is that they suddenly get to add a character that they didn't have before. But we already have a solution for that. There's mods. There's there's mods essentially. People get to download mods and get updated rosters using that. But instead they say, "Oh no, you have to get the new game in order to get the updated rosters." And then because they release a new game every single year, if someone wants to get into the competitive scene, they have to first get a previous game, get good at that, and then they get the new game. It's a lot of money eventually, to keep up with it. And so for players who are already in the competitive scene there, it's super easy to stay in it because you get paid either way. But for people who are trying to get into it, it's hard to get a good team because it's hard to get packs, and then it's hard to get packs because it's hard to get credits. It's hard to get credits because it's hard to create a good character that gets you a lot of credits. It's a pretty bad cycle in my opinion, and this kind of thing, it affects most sports games. They're not changing much in 2K, and I've said this so many times. You can just give people a patch with updated rosters and maybe start making minor gameplay changes in that. For example, I'm gonna go super old, NBA 2K10 back in the day. There was a simple exploit that you could use where you go in one direction and then you change directions quickly and you're already straight at the basket. Like that is impossible to defend. And if people were happy about that, okay, but it's an exploit at the end of the day. So you can patch that so that people can't do that anymore, and then you have a clean game where there's another level of a layer of difficulty. But in the case where people are finding exploits and you're like, you know what? Oh well, we'll just sort that out next year. Well, that's a bit cheap. Like you're releasing a game which, has exploits in it. Solve them rather than just saying, "Oh no, if you want to get that fixed, you have to wait a year and then pay another 70, 80, 90 bucks for it." It doesn't seem right to me. Jacob, what do you Oh wait, sorry. He's not here. um I mean, look, Um, I don't like the way that NBA 2K and these sports games are designed in the way that they uh force people to it's essentially pay to win. Like there's really no opportunity for someone who doesn't want to pay to win to get good at the game. Because the people who are already good at the game get money for playing the game. They then get to put that money into the game. But people who are not good at the game have to put money into the game and then they just have to either grind like crazy or they have to put money into the game in order to get good at it, which kind of denies competition coming up. Um, like at the very least, something like League of Legends, it's free. So if someone new wants to get into the game and then ends up getting good at the game, they could be found. They can be found even if they don't have the money for it. It seems like NBA 2K is a game where if you want to be known for being good at it, you have to put the money into it, which I don't like. That's my issue with NBA 2K, and I think that's honestly what's gonna hold back sports games for a long time. Is the fact that they show one side of the game which everyone seems to like, but then they don't they make the game harder than it really is. They make the game harder than they show it to be. Like if you tell people no, you have to put in the effort to get the result. Sure, if you at least give an opportunity for people who don't want to put in the money into it to get into the competitive scene for it, sure. But it's really hard. I don't like it. If again, but I don't know how it is with Madden. I've talked a lot about NBA 2K. So if you guys have any thoughts about how what the issues with Madden are, if you bought the game, let me know what you think about that. does it deserve 0.3 out of 10 really, or is it just people are immediately reacting to it? Um, and I guess if you think that there are issues to fix, what would you say they should fix, and how do you think they should go about it? If you have any of those, let me know in the comments down below. But from there, we are moving on to the next story, and that is um Travis Scott. Now, look, I don't listen to any of his music. I don't listen to that sort of music. I knew almost nothing about Travis Scott until I started researching him for this piece. But he's making headlines. This is a guy that has done a whole lot of collabs before, like Hot Wheels, Nike, Babes, Saint Laurent, um, the Astros and the Rockets. The Houston Astros and the Houston Rockets, and most recently, Fortnite. In the online content, and while I'm here, I'll make a quick note. I didn't watch it live, but I think an online concert like that is so much better than anything that any of the celebrities are doing right now. Since the pandemic hit, like live streams, sure, and the artists trying to perform from home and make it look like they're one of us. Sure, that's nice, but having your favorite rapper appear in front of you, seeing all that happen, you're in the game. It's like you're almost in a concert, and he just appears in a massive figure and starts going off. Like, that's so much better than just being another viewer on some singer's live stream on YouTube. I feel like and I'll touch on this later, I reckon. But I feel like more artists need to get onto that. Like, that's so good. Um, but Travis Scott has now collaborated with McDonald's. He's started a collaboration, and he's selling a whole lot of stuff. I mean, this guy is selling, well, obviously, the common thing to sell is a whole lot of t-shirts, jumpers and things like that. But there's also a couple of caps. There's a pair of house slippers, a keychain. I'm just looking at the list right now. That's why my face is off. But I mean, he's selling a basketball. He's selling a sticker. He's selling a rug. He's selling a menu rug. He's selling jerseys and shorts. He's selling a tie. He's selling he's selling an action figure from his previous showings, an action figure life size cutout. Like, this man is going all in. There is a nugget body pillow. Like, I'm a vegetarian and I want to get that. um, and obviously the other part of it is that he has his own custom meal. Now, I will touch on this. The meal itself, and I think this is a common thing, it looks extremely ordinary. Like, the burger, drink, fries, these are all really normal, and even inside the burger, it's nothing special. I think it's just the major part of it. It ends up being the receipt. Like, it'll say the Travis Scott, and but at that point, I could just print out a sheet and say I got it. But it's for the moment. Now, look, e-commerce is going big right now, especially with everyone forced to move their businesses online. The only way to support your favorite people is online. And in that, I reckon Travis Scott, he's made a move that's honestly on the level of the drop system of brands like Supreme. That, they put something out that's extremely limited edition, and people buy it for the cultural moment of having it and being there, having been there for it. And then, everyone profits because the people who bought the stuff have the choice now to either resell the stuff for, massive, many times the original price, or they can keep it and say, dude, memorabilia, like, no one else is ever going to be able to get this. We've seen a whole lot of people cashing in on this announcement as well. The report of the week, Lancey 30 Acre, and several members of FaZe, and a whole lot of others have been doing the whole try the new Macca's meal type videos. And, I myself probably won't be cashing in on this. I'm in Australia for one thing, so I don't think it's available here. But also, I probably won't be getting any of the merch anyway. But the fact that this man has been putting in so much in the online scene right now, like, it does again, that his online concert and everything he's been doing this year, honestly, has been perfect for the scene that we're in right now. The whole Fortnite thing. There was actually another artist, one of the biggest artists in Japan, who I personally like quite a lot, a guy named Yones Kinsey, performed his latest set of songs in another Fortnite performance, and since then he's also released a custom clothing line. So honestly, with all of this giving him so much popularity. Like I'm I'm looking at this stuff right now. A whole lot of it is already sold out. The body pillow is sold out. The action figure is sold out. There's a lunch tray that's sold out. The jerseys are sold out. The rugs are all sold out. The pants, the shorts, the jumpers. Wait, I think it's all sold out. No, there's a couple of items left, like the caps, the shoes, the jumpers, a couple of the shirts as well. But like you see that all of these limited edition type drops get so much attention because if you don't get them now, you can't get them ever again. Like this is a moment that's happening right now in history, and if you don't get a cash in on it, you missed out. It's like if you don't post about going to the gym, then did you ever really go? It's and if you didn't if someone didn't see it, then they never know. And if if this is what's going to continue, I mean, more people. We don't know how much longer this pandemic is going to continue, but I feel like more people should be cashing in on the online gaming scene, or like at least the online world, in order to get themselves more out there. Because if they, we've seen Yonezu Kenshi, like obviously he blew up way before this, but his concert was massive in his Fortnite concert. It was pretty big. Obviously, only Japanese people who are fans of Japanese music, which are comparatively few compared to Western and Korean music. But he blew up a fair bit. He was already pretty massive, but he became pretty popular off of that. Obviously, Travis Scott, tons of people were sharing that video around as soon as it came out. You have to imagine that this surely does start inspiring people to, put some money into, similar things into, and bring an even a greater light to online gaming. So honestly, it's really interesting to see where this goes. I mean, like I said, half the stuff that he put out is already sold out. It Look, if you do plan on buying any of the stuff that's available here, um, let me know. I would genuinely be interested in, having a discussion about that, because like how I guess you are a part of history at that point. Like you got something that you got to experience and be part of, and purchase something that no one else will be able to ever get their hands on. So I guess, how do you feel about that? Should more artists do what Travis Scott is doing, and put more money into the online scene, or into places that'll be more public? Should more people start releasing more silly things so that people can get closer to them in a sense, or show their fandom in a way that other people won't be able to? Anyway, let me know. Um, but third story of the week, it's that thing that as soon as until it happens, everyone's paying attention, but as soon as it's finished, no one cares. It's not The Bachelor, it's the Oscars. They recently released a set of guidelines, so to say. Let's see. They essentially said, you have to fulfill certain parameters within the movies that you release to be qualified for Best Picture. One of them is on-screen representation, themes and narratives, creative leadership and project team. All of these have to essentially have a certain level of inclusion and representation within them, the industry access and opportunities, and audience development. So yeah, the movies, in order to be eligible for Best Picture consideration, this is only going to take place start up in 2024. A film must meet 2 out of 4 of these standards, and essentially, there's been a whole lot of takes. There's been a whole lot of takes around this. On one side, there's a lot of people who are saying, this is good. It's good to see that they're trying to essentially say, no, you can't make the Oscars can't remain white. You have to have more people from different cultures getting represented in these. But on the other side, there's a lot of people who are saying, no, this is either you kowtowing to to woke culture, and it should just be a good movie gets shown for being a good movie rather than filling a certain criteria. Now this also, I think, to me, there's 2 sides of it. I would like to ask Jacob what he thinks about this, because he's always good on this kind of stuff. But it's to me, there's two parts to it. Number one is that, um, does it really contribute to representation? Is it just a set of changes to publicize the Oscars and make them look good? Because the last four, no, the last few Oscar winners would not have been affected by these changes. Um, I don't know whether these will actually have any impact on which of the big movies that are made actually win anything, because massive company, let's say Netflix, right? They can just hire two interns and say, yeah, we have two people who are gay, and he's um he's trans, and they've done that. They're done. They don't need any more. They can just say, we have our representation, we have our inclusion. That's one done. And then on screen, oh, there was a look, there's more details to this. Obviously, they can't just have two people in the supporting cast, or hiding in the background, walking around on the footpaths to say that they fulfilled everything. No, they can't do that. But it does feel like a low bar. It does feel like a low bar, because major movies have, like, when you watch one of the Marvel movies, obviously these days for the Marvel movies, everyone knows that you have to stay after the credits to see the after credits scene. But there are so many names in those. There are so many contributors. They could just have like three interns in like each sector and say, "Yep, we're done." But then the interns just end up going to get them coffee every now and then, right? Like, it feels like it's super easy to reach this required quota. And on the other hand, if there's smaller movies or smaller like companies that are making these movies, maybe they don't have the money to hire enough people to fill the diversity requirements. Like, I don't. I feel like this is essentially saying, hey, big moving companies, remember to show us that you are, show everyone that you are good companies and people should like you. And other companies, sorry, I don't like it. I feel like if you do want to, well, for one thing, we've seen representation. We have seen representation. Like, if I'm just gonna search up right now, who won the Oscars last year? Um, Regina King, Bohemian Rhapsody. There's Black Panther. Like, so many of these are already what we wanted, aren't they? Already, we're getting what people like, the representation that people wanted. The Oscars aren't exactly white anymore, and maybe if you wanted to be more specific with the other awards, because I feel like the last few uh Oscars, maybe the first award was not exactly it, but after that, sorry, the first award, the best picture, maybe that acknowledged other races, other cultures, but then you look at the rest of the awards and they are all white. Best picture last year was the Korean movie Parasite. There you go. It fulfills the requirements. But then you look at the other awards and you see Joaquin Phoenix, Brad Pitt, Renee Zellweger, Laura Dern. Like, those are the areas that that the Oscars need to hone in on and say, no, in order to be eligible for these, you need to have certain requirements or something like that. But Best Picture hasn't been, very, tied down in race, I feel like. Um, so I feel like this change really just affects any smaller movie makers who, try to put out a product and, end up just, you know, maybe they didn't have the money to hire enough, you know, my, um, minor ethnic, I can't remember the words right now. Um, ethnic minority groups. That's it. Oh my goodness. My words are off today. This is what happens when Jacob leaves me alone. Jacob, you should feel really bad about yourself. Um, but like, it, it hurts the smaller creators. It doesn't hurt the bigger ones. I feel like it doesn't do that. Um, it doesn't. and it's affecting the wrong award because again, the last few winners of Best Picture would not have been affected by this. And Best Picture, especially Parasite, the year before that, Black Panther. What do you want? What do you want? Even the directing was the director of Parasite, and I'm not gonna say his name because I'll probably say it wrong. But I mean, I feel like this doesn't do what maybe it doesn't have the intended change, the intended effect. But if it has some positive effect, that's good. It's somewhere to start. At the end of the day, you can change things. You have to see how they work, and then you can change them off of that. Like 2K, they should see that their game is broken, release a patch, and fix it because clearly they're not doing that. And I guess you can't really patch the Oscars once you've started them, but you can see, okay, hey, the statistics show that this was positive effect or this had a negative effect. We should change it. So, at the end of the day, again, it's a change. Maybe it'll have some effect. Maybe it won't. I'm looking forward to see if it does do anything. But I don't really pay attention to the Oscars because who really cares at the end of the day? If I get to watch a good movie, then I'll watch a good movie. So it'll be interesting to see. And unfortunately, that's all the stories I have for you guys today. Maybe if Jacob was here, and I'm not gonna blame him, the man needs his rest. It would have been twice the conversation, twice the discussion, and we would have gone for the usual time. But this will end up being a bit of, like I said, a bit of a shorter episode. But again, if you have any thoughts about the stories that I've covered over this episode, let me know in the comments below, or just send us an email. Our contact details are always available. Hit me up on Instagram. Hit Jacob up on Instagram. Anywhere you want. And with that, that brings us to the end of another episode. So, thank you for listening to This Week Online. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, and we'll see you next week.